My friends, it's been a little while again, a couple of weeks, and I apologize. I've been very busy. End of the semester, holidays, all of that good stuff. End of the semester, carrying an A average, by the way. Kudos to me. In a way, it's a good thing that I was delayed from being able to do this. There were a couple things, one of them that happened this weekend, that I definitely wanted to talk about. And what I'm doing today is a little bit unusual. I'm actually using some notes, not any big deal, but some notes. First off, let's start with Bill Cosby. I don't know if I've mentioned this before here, but I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Cosby a couple times back in the 80s. He didn't make a very good impression. I don't particularly care for the guy as a human being. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I want people to understand that I'm not defending him because he's Bill Cosby. I'm not defending him because I've met him and, that makes him a hero or something. I always thought the guy was very funny. I really did. Until I had a chance to meet him and I realized where some of that humor was coming from. Now, he broke his silence this weekend. I'm sure his lawyers told him they really didn't want him to. But he gave an interview to a New York Post reporter, and his name wasn't accredited in the information that I read, which came off Yahoo, actually. But he's a pretty funny guy, Mr. Cosby. Quote, well, first of all, he said, his wife was a strong woman, and I'm sure they love each other. There's very little doubt in my mind. But Mr. Cosby said, quote, let me say this. I only expect the black media to uphold the standards of excellence in journalism. And when you do that, you have to go in with a neutral mind. End quote. He only expects the black media to uphold the standards of excellence in journalism. Well, I'm sure the members of the white media appreciate that. And let's get something straight here, okay? When people say media, they're not necessarily talking about the news per se. No, they're talking about the media on the whole. You've got Access Hollywood, Entertainment Tonight, Jon Stewart, all the late night talk shows. They're all media, like it or not. But let's just, for the sake of argument, let's suppose that all media should be held to those same standards as news media. Let's go there. But you notice I said all media, not just black media, not just white media, all media. And while I agree with the point that it would be nice if the media exhibited a modicum of the American ideal of, everyone's innocent until they're proven guilty. I'm not sure if I was Mr. Cosby, I would want to be making enemies right now of anyone in the media. And he basically has now said that, if you're a member of the, quote, white media, you can't be expected to be ethical. You can't be expected to live up to the standards of media. Not a smart move there, Bill. And let me say this. It was brought up to me that something like 11 of the 20-some ladies that have come forward filed a lawsuit against him in the 80s. Well, I'm minorly unimpressed. Lawsuits. You can file a lawsuit against just about anyone you want. We're not talking about criminal charges here. You don't have to be F. Lee Bailey to know that in a criminal case, the prosecution is charged with proving the charges within a reasonable doubt, whereas in a civil suit, it's a propensity of the evidence. It's, whoever's got 51% of the evidence. So it's a much easier standard of proof, or burden of proof, if you will. That said, Mr. Cosby did apparently pay at least a couple of these ladies. But I also know people that, it's the cost of doing business to pay off nuisance lawsuits. That's just the way it is. And, of course, the rest of us pay for that. But how difficult is it not only to prove a negative, but to prove a negative that's 30 or 40 years old? You know, I hate to say it because I don't want people to think that I'm defending the guy. I'm really not. But I would be saying this about anyone. Yeah, on a personal level, yeah, I think he probably is guilty. I think where there's smoke, there's fire. But under our system, we don't have that luxury. And it's very difficult, like I said, to prove something didn't happen 30 or 40 years ago. 30 years ago, the world didn't end. Well, I can prove that. But that's about one of the few things, No, I think Mr. Cosby might be getting the short end of the stick here. Well, as far as how he's being treated in the media and in the court of public opinion. The man has never, ever, ever been charged with a crime. I'm thinking his lawyer might be getting awfully rich on libel lawsuits here at the end of the day, to be very honest. Of course, that might not be in his best interest. That might bring certain facts to light. Who knows? All right, so that brings me to something else that happened this week. Late last week, actually. And I love doing this. So I'm going to give you all a little quiz here, and I'm going to say, who said about the Republican Party in 2013, you ready? This is a person speaking about the Republican Party in 2013, and they said, quote, "You'd think that they believe that the government that functions best is a government that doesn't function at all. So far, they haven't ended government, but they have achieved the next best thing, shutting the government down. But behind all the slogans of the Tea Party and all the thinly veiled calls for anarchy in Washington, behind all that, there's a reality." Well, and that's from the Federalist, by the way. Now, who do you suppose said that? Let's see. Why, it was Elizabeth Warren. Why does that name sound familiar, you might ask? Well, her name's being floated as a possible presidential candidate in 2016, but besides that, she's the one who last week said that the Senate should not be passing the current spending bill that's on the table because there's a couple things in there she doesn't like. What? See, apparently, when a Republican does it, they're an anarchist. When a Democrat does it, they're standing up for their ideals. Double standards are not exactly a new thing for, well, really either side, but mostly the side on the left of the aisle there. Ms. Warren, you anarchist, you. Recognize your hypocrisy and grow up. Oh, did he just call her an anarchist? Yes, I did. And vis-a-vis my earlier comments about libel and slander, I have a defense against Ms. Warren charging me with libel or slander, and that's based upon her own definition. That's what she is. She's an anarchist. How interesting is that, huh? And that brings me to one last thing that unfortunately happened earlier today. Not a good thing, but it's kind of a good thing I waited. 126 children were killed near Peshawar. They were killed by Taliban operatives, and they were killed because they were going to school. Let that sink in for a minute. They were killed because they were going to school. They were killed in the school building. They were shot by these bastions of free thinking and these harmless, poor, misunderstood Taliban members who obviously practice or at least advocate Sharia law. The same people who behead people. The Taliban doesn't specifically do that, but Muslim extremists do. I don't know how people can continue to defend the actions of these barbarians. And unfortunately, most of the defense I see coming comes from, again, the left. If you speak out against the extremist Muslims, you just don't like people with brown skin. Or, worse, you're flat out a racist. It never ceases to amaze me. Was it peace-loving people that flew those 2 planes into the World Trade Center? Was it peace-loving people that bombed the USS Cole? Was it peace-loving people that behead people? Journalists trying to do a job? Are these the kind of peace-loving people we're talking about? The poor, misunderstood victims? That's who we're talking about here, right? It disgusts me. It is disgusting. It is an affront. Now, I'm getting a little worked up, but I promise you I'm not foaming at the mouth. It aggravates me that people can, just based upon some political ideology, look at actions like this and say, well, yeah, they're victims. It's not their fault. What a load of garbage. These people should be held accountable, and they should pay the highest price. Thank you, Josh. Well, my friends, hopefully it won't be another 2 weeks before I get back in touch with you. Until such time as I do speak to you again, may you be safe, may you be healthy, and may you be loved. And until you hear my voice again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand, whether you believe in him or not. Peace.